Hello everyone, before we get started, I'm going to do a quick audio test. If you can hear me, can you please type in the chat box? Hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Resilient Course Design of our COVID series. I'm Kaylin Ramsey, Director of Member Engagement and Professional Development at MCCA. Before starting the webinar, I want to go over some quick announcements and housekeeping items. We have 2 webinars coming to a computer near you on August 25th at 11 a.m. Omid Fatui, I hope I didn't badger his name, with WGU Labs will present the impact COVID and social justice tensions have on students, educators, and administrators. On August 27th at 10 a.m., Keith Fuller with St. Louis Community College, along with some of his colleagues, Deidre Denny and Vincent Flewellen, will present diversity and inclusion efforts. Don't let your college fall behind. If you have any questions during today's presentations, please feel free to type it in the Q&A window. Rita will also have some questions for you guys, so please feel free to get interactive and use that chat box or the Q&A. Please connect with us using the hashtags MCCA webinar, COVID-19, and Better Together, and visit our website for updates. In today's session, Rita Wheeler will talk about how Mac's Instructional Technology team has designed a Canvas course that is preparing their faculty for easy transition from in-seat to virtual instruction should it become necessary in this ever-changing environment. Come learn about their resilient course design model and how they're preparing instructors to seamlessly move to an online virtual environment using Canvas and Zoom. Rita Wheeler, sorry Rita, I don't know why I'm doing that, is an instructional technology coordinator at Moberly Area Community College. She has a background in education and educational technology with an emphasis on teaching and learning technologies, including the Canvas LMS, McGraw-Hill Connect Learning Systems, Pearson Education Learning Systems, electronic portfolios, and Zoom. Rita is also an adjunct instructor at Mac, teaching college orientation online and yoga in-seat and virtually. She earned her Master of Higher Education with Walden University Online and is currently working toward a Master of Arts in History with Missouri State Online. She also sits on MCCA's advisory board, and I'm going to have to hit her up about that yoga. I think that would be a great touch at convention this year. And now I will turn it over to Rita.
Hello, everyone. We have a couple people logged in. I'm hoping some more will join as we go through the presentation, and we'll have a little bit of interaction with everyone. As Kaylin said, we're going to be talking about resilient course design, and I'm just going to take you through the series, the training series that we have with our faculty on Canvas and Zoom in order to prepare them for a transition to virtual or a transition to online should it become necessary. And so the first thing that I'm going to share with you on my screen is the Resilient Course Design PowerPoint. So resilient course design is what we're calling it. I think we robbed that term from our Vice President for Instruction. We just want to make sure that instructors who are traditionally in-seat or hybrid with 1 day in-seat, 1 day online are ready to transition to a virtual environment when and if it becomes necessary. We went through a little bit of that at the end of the spring semester. We got good at it in the summer, and we're training our instructors for virtual instruction for the fall. We're preparing already for the fall. So the first question you might have in the back of your mind is, why did we do that? First of all, was that reflection on how the spring 2020 transition went. So back in March, we transitioned from a traditional in-seat on campus in front of your instructor classroom into a virtual one, and we actively started reflecting on that in the summer and figured out what we could do better. We wanted to prepare for a completely virtual and online summer environment. So all of our classes were taught either virtually or online for the entire summer. And then that prepared us just a little bit more, and we got better at it for the fall 2020 instruction model. When we first developed this series of training on resilient course design, we didn't know that we were going to be virtual from the get-go in the fall semester. We thought we were going to have to transition in during the Thanksgiving break and then everything go virtually. So we were preparing for that, and because we prepared early, we now are ready, and we're actively training our instructors to be able to go to virtual from day one of the fall semester, since that decision has been made. And I'm sure you are like a lot of the rest of us, where your colleges and maybe universities, depending on where you're from, didn't know how their instruction model was going to look going into July, even the middle of July. So those decisions had to be made on the fly. And because we were prepared and we were already training on this resilient course design model, I think that we're very well prepared now to go into the fall semester with virtual instruction. And I hope that helps you in some way, if by viewing this webinar and even getting a copy of our resilient course design course. I'll make that available to you later on. The last thing that we took into consideration in trying to develop this resilient course design model and coming up with some requirements for our instructors in their Canvas courses and in their Zoom accounts was student feedback. So our student feedback, of course, it was a very trying time for everyone back in March, when we had to immediately flip and we had to immediately transition into that virtual or online environment. A lot of our instructors had never been online or virtual teachers before, so not only did we have to train them, we had to train them how to help their students. And so our student feedback that we got was that every instructor did it differently. We didn't have a consistent model. So in our effort to make our model consistent, we have enrolled our instructors into a virtual instructor training course. So our focus is on transitioning those ground and hybrid instructors that traditionally teach in a physical classroom into a virtual model, where they still meet at a certain time, at a certain day of the week. They still meet at that given time. It's synchronous learning, but they're over camera, they're over the internet, they're using Zoom. So we developed this virtual instructor training course, and that's the first thing I want to share with you here. So I'm just going to exit out of my PowerPoint and go into the virtual instructor training course here. So we developed this on Canvas, and before I dive into that, I want to ask, in the chat window, if you could just let me know how many of you are using Canvas as your LMS, or maybe type the name of the LMS that you do use at your college. East Central uses Canvas. Sheila, where are you from? OTC, okay, good. So this page is Genzabar, okay. Blackboard at STLCC, all right. That's good. This model, I believe, can be translated into any learning management system, into any webinar software. So second question, how many of you have gotten the chance to use Zoom as your instructional software, as your webinar software for instruction? Or if you'd use some other product, type that into the chat for me. Kenneth used Zoom in the spring, okay. Zoom is pretty popular. We did some checking here at MACC. Zoom in the spring for Vicky, okay. So we started using Zoom with MoreNet because we got free accounts. We got so many free accounts with our MoreNet subscription. And so we began using Zoom a couple of years ago, just in a meeting format. Some classrooms started using it, but we didn't have the volume of virtual instruction that we have now. So we began heavily using Zoom and getting pro accounts for all of our instructors when we had to make that transition in the spring, just like many of you. So we're managing here in instructional technology, we're managing the MACC Zoom account through MoreNet. So we handle giving out those accounts. We handle training people how to use Zoom, how to teach with it, all the bells and whistles. Nicole mentioned something about Collaborate and Microsoft Teams. We are beginning to use Microsoft Teams as well, Nicole, here, but those are mostly for meetings and not for instruction. And then Blackboard Collaborate Ultra is still in place in some of our classrooms that have traditionally used that over the span of the last 5 years. So some of them are still using those. Same here for Teams for meetings. Yeah, Karen. So we're primarily going to focus on Canvas as the LMS and what we've configured in Canvas to train our instructors and then to design their courses. And then we're going to focus on Zoom and the settings that we use in Zoom in order to make our classrooms secure. Our design for Zoom as well as our design for Canvas in order for students to not be frustrated with the layout of our virtual courses in the fall. We're going to try to find some consistency. We're going to try to coach our instructors to develop their class in Canvas in much the same manner as the next faculty member or the next instructor configures their course. So we're going to jump into the virtual instructor training course first. And this is a class, a course that we've enrolled our instructors who would traditionally teach ground or hybrid courses, those face-to-face physical classes. We enrolled instructors in this back before our summer semester started. So we kind of had a pilot with the summer semester requiring that our ground instructors who are moving to virtual instruction over the summer go through this course and go through the training so they would know how to use Zoom and they would know how to design their courses. And then we came up with resilient course design training that was live. Rather than just going through a course, we also came up with that resilient course design training that I'm going to go over in just a bit. So that students would not be frustrated because one class was totally different than the other in the way that they turned in their assignments, in the way that they accessed their classroom, and so forth. So you can see here that I've designed this course the way that we want our instructors to design their virtual courses. So I have a welcome page. I've built this welcome page with a picture, which is not required, but it's nice for aesthetics. And then I give the purpose for the course. I welcome students to the course, and then I tell them how to get started. And that's one of our first requirements, is to tell students how to get started in your course. So if you think about students being on their dashboard in Canvas, they click on your course from the dashboard and they land on this page that just has a bunch of modules. It just has a bunch of weeks or units. Where do I start? What do I do? So if we make this our starting page, we ask our faculty members to include a getting started module at the top of the list. Otherwise, we ask them to make that home page that tells students what the course is about, tells them how to get started, how to jump into modules, and what to click on first. So Cindy has a question. So if I must use Blackboard, will your content be applicable? Yes. I believe I've used Blackboard as a student myself. I'm using it right now in my master's program. So I believe you can design your Blackboard course in with much the same philosophy here for ease of use for students. The main points being, give them instructions on how to get into your virtual classroom if it's embedded in Blackboard, if you can get to Zoom from Blackboard. Otherwise, you give them a link on one of your Blackboard pages. Give them a place to turn in assignments to you and clear instructions on how to do that. And just keep up communication with your students through announcements or through an inbox if that's available in Blackboard. So a lot of the things that I'm going to go over, kind of think about that in your realm, in your Blackboard realm, and you can use some of those same concepts to configure your course there. All right, so this is the modules list. This is our virtual instructor training course. And while I'm here, I just want to show you some of the things that we've done with Zoom. So Zoom has an LTI configuration, that's Learning Tools Interoperability, big long term, for something that can be embedded in Canvas and be clicked on and accessed right through the Canvas environment. So when we click on Zoom as an instructor in the left side menu, we see this Zoom app. Canvas calls them apps that are embedded into Canvas, and students can access their Zoom classroom right here. We're asking instructors to make that the same across the board. You could use your own Zoom account and go to modules and put a link in there and ask students to click on that. But for consistency's sake, and from the feedback of our students, they want consistency, we are asking our instructors to use the Zoom link in the left menu and create their class link here by clicking Schedule a New Meeting. When I click schedule a new meeting, the topic automatically defaults to the name of my course. So if this is Math 140 Section 2 with Smith, that would be the name of my course here. And that makes it very easy for students to know that they're entering the correct classroom. Some other settings that we've asked our instructors to make consistent are that we make it a recurring meeting, so students only have one link to click on. They don't have a long list of links and they have to figure out their class day to click on it. And then we ask them to do no fixed time. So all of that goes away and they have one link in the Zoom app. Students have a join button, instructors have a start button. You don't have to require registration in a Canvas Zoom app because you won't be able to get in unless you're logged in as a student in the Canvas class. There are a couple of exceptions to that when you send out guest links, but we're pretty secure in our Zoom classrooms when we put it behind a login. So when we put it behind a Canvas login, we're pretty secure. We don't have to require that registration to vet our participants. We've all heard about the abusive behavior that's going on in some of those public meetings where links are shared on Facebook, links are shared on websites, and the general public can just join those rooms. In this type of environment where you have a login and students have to log into Canvas, that potential abuser would have to have had the Canvas username and password for a student in your class in order to get in here. One way to make sure that students are not sharing your link with their friends and their friends potentially could become abusers is to use a passcode. And when you use a passcode here, I used one in my yoga class, my virtual yoga class this past summer, and I did have a couple of students that wanted to go directly to the Zoom app on their phones and enter my classroom rather than going through Canvas. And in that case, they had to have the passcode. So they had to come to me and I had to make sure they were one of my students and I had to consciously give them that password. So that's one way to make sure students that aren't supposed to be in your classroom are not coming in your classroom, is to use that passcode. You can also use the waiting room, and that's just another measure of security in Zoom, is to turn on your waiting room. And with our instructors, we're recommending that they do that because they are also required to take attendance. And as you admit people from your waiting room, you can make sure they're one of your students, as well as you can go to attendance in your left side menu in Canvas, and you can take attendance with that seating chart. So waiting room is just an extra measure of security just to make sure the people getting in your room are supposed to be in your room. The video and audio settings, those are your choice. We do recommend that they're off by default and that students have alternate means of entering through the audio, especially if they have iffy internet connections. They can call in and at least get audio if we have computer and telephone. The last thing that we ask our instructors to do, and we're actually requiring it on the Zoom setup for our virtual classes in the fall, is to disable that join before host option. We don't want students, even legitimate students that have a Canvas login and are supposed to be in this course, we don't want them to be able to get in there without the supervision of an instructor. So we disable that join before host. You can, if you team teach using Zoom, if you have a teacher that's going to be joining you in the class, you can put them in as alternative hosts. With the app in Canvas, they have to have an account under your organization's Zoom account. So that email has to be recognized. And then we simply click save. When I go back to Zoom now, I see all of the links here that I've created for all of these trainings that I've been doing. In Canvas, our instructors only have one link. And students are it's very easy for students to see the join button, click the join button, and they get into class just like you did. From here on in, once students click the join button, it's just like you entering this Zoom meeting with us today. You see them on camera or not, you are the host automatically because you're the teacher, and you can control what students do in your classroom. You can control chat, you can control muting people. Even though you've got your Zoom room configured so that the possibility of an abusive behavior going on from an outside person is minimal, you still might have those inappropriate behaviors from students just like you do in a physical classroom. So what you can, when you're the host, you can kick them out. you can still, just like you would in a physical classroom. If they're exhibiting inappropriate behaviors in your physical classroom, you ask them to leave. If they're exhibiting inappropriate behaviors in your Zoom classroom, then you just remove them from the classroom with the click of a button. Okay, so that's Zoom. That's how we've set it up here at MACC, how we're asking our instructors to be consistent in putting it in the left menu, making a recurring link, and making it very easy for students to know where to go to click the join button to join their class. Do I have any questions? I'm just going to slow down for just a minute before we move into the Canvas design and our resilient course design model. I'm looking at Karen's comment in the chat, and she says same here for Teams. They use it for meetings. Even some of the Zoom rooms that we use for meetings are embedded in this Canvas app in a course that's named for whatever committee or whatever meeting organization is using that Zoom app. So sometimes we even go through Canvas in order to get into our committee meetings. Used in some departments. Zoom also, we use Zoom a lot for meetings here. We're just beginning to use Teams for just little one-off impromptu meetings in our department and across departments here at MACC. So we're looking into that a little bit more. We all have team accounts because we have Office 365, right? So you have to have Office 365 at your organization in order to be included in Teams and to be recognized. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears here for just a second. And I'm going to switch over to that resilient course design model and just show you the template, the blank template that we have first. And it's in. So our transition template, that we call it, is very bare bones. It's just a place for traditionally ground instructors to go to get started. So here you have your home page. That doesn't have a whole lot on it yet. It's just got here, you should put in your course name and you should click on modules to get started. Our instructors are going to want to dress this up. They may want to put a picture in like I had in the virtual instructor training course. They're going to want to maybe introduce students a little more to the course and the purpose for the course. And then we ask them to create things in modules. So in the modules list, you see here that we not only have resilient course design and the explanation for it at the top of the list, we also have units already configured for them. So we can change these units. Once we copy this template into an instructor's course, they can change the names of these modules. We ask them to either use week or unit or chapter to take students through the course from top to bottom in an outline format. So we've already designed this for them with the nomenclature of unit, but that doesn't mean that they can't change that. We also have 16 units for the 16 weeks that are in a typical semester. They would have to narrow that down to 8 if it happened to be an 8-week term or some other length. So they have a little work to do. And then we ask them to put their assignments into these modules for ease of access by the students. So a lot of our students came, I'm just going to switch over to the training course that I use now to configure these things so I can show you in real time. This is kind of the model that we use. We ask instructors not to point students just to the indexed list of assignments in Canvas. We ask them to take students through modules. So it's an outline format. The student sees week by week or unit by unit what they need to do in a scrolling format. And all of their assignments are right there. Any files you want them to look at are right there. Any tests that they need to take that week. So if we think about virtual instruction, it really is online instruction. It's just in a synchronous format where you're going to get time with your teacher face to face. Everything else has to be online. We have to have a way for them to upload assignments. We have to have a way for them to take their tests. We have to have a way for them to access their syllabus. So all of those things can be put into modules in Canvas, and we're asking our instructors to do that across all of our courses so that it can be consistent for our students and they won't be frustrated like they were at the end of the spring semester where they weren't sure where to go. So with our instructors being on Zoom, so let's say it's the first day of class and students have logged into Zoom, they see their instructor there, and their instructor tells them all about how to use Canvas to upload their assignments, tell them when to take their quiz, and they can tell them to go to the syllabus as well. So we ask instructors to put all of those things in modules. They're all accessed from one place. But there is an index list of all of those things. So actually, when you build your assignments in Canvas, this is where they live. This is the place that your assignments live. All of your tests, all of your assignments, all of your discussions live under this index list of assignments. And we did have some instructors who were new to Canvas, because all they had done really in the past was build their assignments here so that they could have a grade book, an electronic grade book. That was our requirement prior to the end of the spring 2020 semester, is that ground instructors had to keep their grades on Canvas and they had to keep attendance on Canvas. Otherwise, they just have this index list of assignments, and they tell students, go here, find this assignment, click on it, and complete it. Well, if you put it in modules organized in that outlined format, week by week or unit by unit, then your students don't have to worry about finding the name of the assignment that that instructor might have said on Zoom. I can't remember, I'm out of the classroom now. I don't know what they said, which assignment we're supposed to do. So if I go to week 1 and I see, oh, this is due September 30th, then I know that's the assignment that I have to complete for that week. Any questions so far? I know I tend to talk a little fast if I don't consciously slow myself down. Okay. So on this training course homepage, you'll see that we have dressed this up a little bit. We have put in a whole homepage that talks about how to get started in the course, what this course is all about, and we've even linked to some things that we want our instructors to go to look at in order to work through this course. We've even put in our contact information, and you can do the same thing in Canvas or Blackboard. Put your contact information on that very first page that students click on. And in order to get this home page in Canvas, we first have to make it a page, and the page is index list. And we view all pages here. So I have several available that we've created. We create the page by clicking the plus page button, and then we can edit it by clicking the edit button. And this is how we dress it up in Canvas. We have this rich text editor where we can add the links, we can add pictures, images, videos, whatever we want to put in here. This is mostly text with some linked places out in Canvas. So these links that are actually going to Canvas, these assignments, are linked from the assignments area here. So we just link to those in the left menu, and then we click Save. This is already marked as a front page, but if I want it to potentially be my front page, then I have to go to the 3 small dots and I have to say, make it a front page. It says remove right now. And then when I go home, it's automatically there. If I want to switch that out, then I just scroll down. Sometimes this menu is over on the right-hand side in Canvas, depending on your screen resolution, your screen size. But we choose the home page from the choose home page button, and then we choose that page as front page. Some instructors do like to leave it as modules, so you can always choose the course modules here. They land on that outline format, and then you have a getting started area at the top of the modules list. We do ask them to do that. If they leave it as modules, we ask them to have something about getting started at the top of the modules list in Canvas. And then we just take them through. Week by week or unit by unit. Some people say the week of July 29th, chapter 11, all different types of things that you can use to name your modules, but we ask that you stay consistent with those here at MACC, stay consistent in your naming convention. And then you just have to add your items into the modules list. So I click the plus sign here to add an assignment. I'm just going to add a new one to show you how to do that in Canvas. In case you've never added new assignments in Canvas before, I can show you how to do that. So I'm just going to say this is example 6. I think I'm on example 6. And then I click add item, and you'll notice that the placeholder for it is right here. It's unpublished. It doesn't have anything in it yet. It's just a placeholder, but it actually lives in assignments. So this is my index list. It's automatically built. And once I publish this assignment, it will also be in my gradebook. It will have a column in my gradebook for it. And I'll show you that once I get it created. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the name of that assignment to set up my grading policies. I click edit here. And I just have to, if I want to change the name, I can. I have to tell students how to work with this assignment. So the very first thing I want to do in Canvas is tell them where to go to submit it. So to begin the submission process, they have to click the red submit button in the top right corner of the screen. So that's the minimum that we ask instructors to put in their assignments list, is to tell students what to click on in order to upload their files or type in their text boxes. I set up my points. I leave the assignment group as assignments. Another training session that we have here at MACC is to show instructors how to weight their grades. And if I do that, I would put it in an assignment group, and that group would be weighted. We have another whole different training session for that. Displaying grade is as points. Most of the time that's what we use, unless it's a lab class or something like that where it's complete or incomplete. Submission type can't be no submission, because then it wouldn't be in the grade book and students wouldn't have any way of uploading it for you to grade. So what we use here at MACC is the online option, whereas in the past, if you were a ground instructor, not teaching virtually but keeping your grade book in Canvas, you would choose on paper, and that student would be handing that paper into you in class when they saw you in the physical building. Lots of choices for an online submission. They can type into a text box, submit a website URL, record themselves and send it to you, or the most popular one there is file upload. And if we restrict file types here, it keeps students from being able to use Google Docs or Office 365 to upload documents to you. So we normally ask that you don't restrict those file types. If you want a Word doc or a Google Doc, you should put that in the instructions at the top. Allowed attempts is something new in Canvas. You can make that unlimited, but it will still cut students off at your due date or your until date at the bottom. If you want them to do limited, if they turn it in early, they still only get 1 or 2 or 3 attempts. Otherwise, they can keep resubmitting until the due date and the until date comes and goes. Group assignments is also another training session that we do here. You have to set up your groups in People before you can make this a group assignment and send it out to those groups individually. You can require peer reviews, and again, that's set up under People, your peer review groups. Who's going to review whom has to be set up ahead of time. And then most importantly, we ask our instructors to create due dates, because in Canvas, when you create due dates for your students, not only do they get the due date in the modules list just below the assignment, they get a calendar reminder and they get it on their to-do list. So it's a very powerful tool to keep students organized, even if you have to come in here and give them a little more time. Like if someone comes to you and they're sick, or someone comes to you. Oh, Tabitha wants to know about a weighted grades webinar. That's an MACC training that we do, Tabitha, but I would be happy to send you a link on the next one that we do, or I can set up a time with you just to go through it one-on-one if you'd like. We can do that via Zoom. So I'll give you my email at the end of this, and you can shoot me an email and remind me that I offered to do that for you. Okay, so assigning due dates here. We want to do that for our students in order to keep them organized in Canvas, especially since we won't be seeing them in class and reminding them every day that they have a paper due next week and those due dates. So they have it right in their face, in the modules list, in their calendar, and in their to-do list. And a lot of students work off of that to-do list. They click the link right in the to-do list to go to the assignment. And so I'm going to just set up a due date here of the 17th, but I'm going to allow my students to work on this from the beginning of the semester. If they want to work ahead, that's fine with me. I'm going to open it up from the first day of the term by not putting a date into that due date column. And then my until date, I can give them a week. I can say there's no until date. I'm not going to cut them off ever. I'll allow them to turn in work. And if you do that and you've set a due date, Canvas will tell you if the student, Canvas will tell you in your grade book if the student turned in the work late, and then you can adjust your grade accordingly. But if you absolutely don't want them turning any work past the 2-week mark, you can go ahead and put an until date in there. And then most importantly, we click Save and Publish for that assignment to appear in all of the places that it's supposed to appear. The modules list, the calendar, the to-do list, and here it's right in my module already for week 1. If I wanted it to go to another module, I could just move it around. Example 6 assignment really ought to go in week 2 or something like that. I can just drag and drop and come in and edit those. questions about creating assignments in Canvas. Lots of other items that you can put in your modules list. Like I said, we add quizzes because students have to have a way to turn in their tests. I'm not sure that Blackboard has a test builder or a quiz builder where you can take electronic tests. I think maybe your tests might be a Word document, they download it, they answer it, they re-upload it, and then you grade it manually in the grade book in Blackboard. I'm not sure what the instructor side looks like, but in Canvas, we have a test builder. So if I choose quiz as the type of thing that I want to put in, I'm just going to show you one of the tests that we already have built here. So our chapter 4 test, we put it into the modules list, and here when we edit it, you can see that we set up all of the same policies except for protecting our tests with time limits, especially if it's a midterm or a final, letting students see their quiz responses and the correct answers, showing one question at a time, all kinds of options in the Canvas quiz builder here, requiring an access code. So if you don't want them to be able to get into the midterm, for example, until they meet with you on Zoom and you can see them taking their test, then you would give them that passcode when you see them in your Zoom classroom. And then they would be able to enter this test and take it while you're watching them over the Zoom classroom. And again, you give it a due date and click Save at the bottom. You have to build your questions into Canvas, and at the very least, what you would do here is just type your question manually. And Canvas has all kinds of types of answer types in their drop down. What we use most often is multiple choice. So you just type your question in, and then you type in your answers and you update your question. I'm going to cancel out of that and show you a question that I've already built. So if I edit here, you can see who are your friends, mark all that apply. That's a multiple answer question. You also have multiple choice, true, false, fill in the blank. And then I just click update question here. I have to tell Canvas which ones are the correct ones by clicking on the arrow next to the correct answer. So this is just typing questions in manually. You can also upload question banks from publishers, or maybe you have a QTI zip file. That's the format that we need in Canvas in order to upload questions into a quiz. So if you have a bank that you want to choose from, you can always click Find Questions here and choose which questions you want to include on this test. Another suggestion that we make to our faculty, especially in an online environment where you're not in the classroom with the students taking a paper test, is that you group your questions. Even if you're going to choose all of your questions, put them into a group so that when Susie takes her test, the order of her questions is different than when Joe takes his test online. So when we put them into the group, we pick, even if we pick all 2 questions, so you notice I have 2 questions here and I'm saying pick them both, and give the students 1 point per question. That randomizes the questions per student, and it keeps the integrity of your test intact, no cheating, or less chance of cheating in your tests if we group them in Canvas there. So that's creating a quiz, and I just click Save, and again, since I've put that item directly in my modules list there, it appears right there. So I have my assignments, my tests. There are discussions available for in Canvas for students to do online discussions, and you can choose to do that or not. What we like to assume is that you're having those discussions in your Zoom classroom if you're a virtual instructor. If you're completely online, asynchronous, of course you have to have discussions online, and you make those threaded discussions and give the students a prompt to talk about just like you would in a physical classroom. So that's another type of item that you can put in to keep your students engaged online. You can put files in here, like if you have PowerPoints that you've shown in class and you just want to make those available to your students when you're out of the Zoom classroom, you can put those in as a file in your modules list. And we do recommend that those go in the weeks that you presented them to the classroom so the students can easily refer back to them, go back to the week that they were presented, and find those PowerPoints. And a syllabus in your modules list is always a good idea. So that is a file, and you would just upload a new file. You can copy and paste your syllabus into a page in Canvas and leave that in the modules list. But putting it in as a file is perfectly fine. There is a syllabus option in the left menu. But if you don't want students going directly to your assignments list, there's a copy of the assignments list at the end of the syllabus page. You would want to disable that syllabus link in the left menu and just include your syllabus in a file link in your modules list. That's what we ask our instructors to do. As a matter of fact, we ask our instructors to limit what students see in this left menu just to avoid confusion, because students aren't going to need these index lists of things if you're going to put them in modules list. So we just ask instructors to hide those from students and make them go through the modules list in order to access their material, their assignments, their tests. Everything should be in the modules list. And the way that we do that is just to go to settings. We go to navigation, and anything that's in this top area is visible to students. If there's anything in it, if you don't have your modules published or you don't have any announcements, it won't be visible to students. And then anything that you want to re-enable at the top menu, you just drag it up and then you drag it down, anything you don't want students to see. And when you do that, you'll notice in the left menu, I have the I with a slash through it, meaning it's not visible to students, or there's nothing in there for people to see, and so it's hidden. So that left menu, if I go to student view now, you can see how much cleaner it is as a student, not seeing all of those things in the left menu, student view. This is nice in Canvas that we have this student view. So you see the home page, their menu is much simpler. So you tell them to go to modules, they can find it very easily, click on the modules list. You tell them to go to Zoom, they click on Zoom and all they see is a join button to join the class. So viewing that from a student point of view, you can see how it's much nicer when we limit the things that they can be confused by in the left menu. Okay, one more thing that I want to show you today. We're about at 45 minutes. That's been about my timing for all of our trainings here at MACC as well. One more thing that I want to show you is the communication tools that you can use in Canvas just to keep in touch with your students when you're not in the Zoom classroom with them. Some of them are going to have trouble with their internet. Some of them are going to have trouble with video or maybe chat. They can always communicate with you through the inbox in Canvas. So you might see messages come through your Canvas inbox if you're a Canvas instructor. If not, you would watch your Blackboard communications or your school's email in order to see those communications from your students. But a way to keep your presence noted in the classroom, even when you're not on Zoom with them, is to send out an announcement weekly or whenever you need to because there's some special circumstance. I have several announcements here, and the way that we do that in Canvas is just click the plus announcement button. It's very intuitive in Canvas. You just look for that big red button that has the plus whatever thing that you're trying to add. So we maybe welcome them to class, and again, tell them how to get started with Zoom, or tell them how to get started with Zoom, introduce yourself, tell them what to do on the first day, ask them to explore Canvas or their learning management system, read through the syllabus. And then we can say, if we're setting this up 2 weeks ahead of time, we're building our class 2 weeks ahead of time, and we want to say, oh, I don't want to send that out until the day before class starts. I can set that to go out on a different day. And then when I click save, Canvas will keep it for me until August 23rd at midnight, and then we'll send out that announcement automatically for me. So hypothetically, you could set up every single announcement for every week if you wanted to ahead of time and just delay the posting. If it's something that you need to send out right away, you've noticed a pattern of students having trouble with something throughout the first couple weeks and you want to send out an announcement right away, you just don't delay the posting. When you click save, Canvas sends that out to all of the students in your class. And here's your preview of that. So announcements in the inbox are the communication tools in Canvas. I'm sure Blackboard has something similar to communicate with your students, and especially since we're interacting over technology now in a virtual environment, we need to keep that communication close with our students, whether it be our email, our announcements, our inbox, or just chatting with them in some other way. So that is all that I have for you as far as resilient course design and what MACC is doing to make it less frustrating for our students and our faculty and to keep that consistency going in our classroom. Does anyone want to share in the chat what your plan is for the fall at your school and have any questions about that?
I would also like to see what people have to say, what they're planning on doing this fall. Please chat with us. I just attended a conference this week, and it had to be moved to virtual. And it said to allow uncomfortable silences during your Zoom, your webinars. They said that's okay.
Pauses are good.
Pauses are good. To teach hybrid with a lab day or fully online classes. STLCC is doing LVL online and a few F2F if labs are needed.
Face-to-face. We're doing that too here at MACC. Instructors are letting us know ahead of time who their students are going to be. They have to wear masks. They're coming in for those lab days. Some of them are doing virtual labs, like some of our human anatomy and physiology classes are still doing their virtual labs because they've gotten good at that through online coursework. So they had to do their labs some way. And they're teaching those traditionally ground lab class instructors how to do those as well, those online labs.
Cindy said also limited opening of libraries. I didn't even think about the library.
We're making resources available to our students, but they have to make appointments. We have to know they're on campus and where to clean after they've been here. So
many things to think of. Well, while we're waiting for more questions, I do want to say thank you to Rita. Thank you very much for sharing your expertise and willing to take the time to do this webinar today. And people, please, if you took any pictures, if you want to post anything, please use the hashtag MCCA webinar COVID-19 and Better Together. And what did this Tabitha said? Plan on having agenda if having a Zoom meeting. Thank you. Thank you for that, Tabitha. And then please be on the lookout regarding with communications from us about upcoming events. We do create a lot of these on the fly, so they are subject to change. In fact, the webinar with WG Labs, the impact COVID and social justice tensions have on students, educators, and administrators might be pushed back another week just to give more time for marketing. So, because we did switch that, we had that webinar scheduled for about a year now. And since COVID came, he was like, let's do something a little bit more relevant, which I totally agreed with. So we just changed that last week. So some of these are on the fly to create the best events for you guys with the best content. So thank you for being flexible with us, but we do want to provide cutting edge professional development opportunities. So we do create some of these on the fly. So that one will be pushed back. But if we don't have any more questions, I can, thank you, Rita, for sharing your contact information.
That is my email. If anyone wants to schedule a Zoom one-on-one, just short training session with me, we can schedule those and do them over Zoom. If anyone, just shoot me that email, ritaw@macc.edu.
And Kenneth says, thank you so much. This was helpful.
Awesome.
And everyone, we will be providing this webinar. It is recorded and we will be sending it to nearly 50 people that registered. So we will be sending that out via email as soon as we get it up into the repository. We will send it out to you guys. Oh, Cindy, thank you. This is appreciated. Thank you, Cindy. If you scroll up a little bit, Tabitha, and I can email it to you, Tabitha. I know where to find you. I can email that to you. Oh, there it is again. Thanks, Rita. Well, if there's nothing anyone else has to say, I can go ahead and close it. Thank you again, Rita, so much. And thanks to everyone. Good luck with school starting up. And if there's any other content you guys would like for us to provide, please do not hesitate to shoot me an email or give me a call. We love to have feedback. So thank you, everyone, and have a great day. Thank you, Rita.